card were all there in the account, and obviously some other personal information.
Meyer told investigators he recognized one of the accounts behind the comments as 𝗬𝗏𝗟𝗏𝗂𝗏. The document detailed how they linked that account back to Patel, including getting a subpoena from Facebook and Google. From there, they were able to obtain account and payment information, matching Patel's credit card number, address, phone number, and other personal data.
So police found that, in a shock, it was Patel who was sending fake racist messages about his campaign to himself. So on June 12, 2024, Patel was arrested for impersonating a Trump supporter. This is crazy. A Democrat from the White House was arrested for criminal impersonation of a Trump supporter.
Commissioner score.
Yeah, police say 𝗧𝗘𝗟𝗏 created a fake social media account, then used it to make racist attacks against himself.
Okay, so now investigators figured out that 𝗧𝗟𝗘 was Antonio Scallywag. But remember, back in 2022, Antonio Scallywag had done these racist attacks to Judge KP George. And Patel was KP George's chief of staff. So when police looked into Patel's text messages, they found that it was Judge KP George who was allegedly ordering Patel to fake racist hate crimes against both the judge and Patel himself. Here's what investigators found.
Fort Bend County Judge KP George of knowing about and taking part in 𝗧𝗏𝗘𝗏𝗏's fake posting. Now, Patel, who's running for Precinct 3 Commissioner in Fort Bend County, was arrested and charged with these fake postings, making attacks against himself and other campaigns last month. He was using a fictitious name, Antonio Scallywag. But now investigators say the Fort Bend County judge knew about these fake postings against his own previous campaign. All of this in cooperation with Patel. Investigators saying not only did KP George know about the posts that were on his Facebook page, he actually told Patel, who was working as a consultant to his campaign at the time, to post these hate-filled comments on social media. This is a text message right here uncovered by investigators telling Patel what to write, and another one uncovered by investigators. This is from Patel to George, where he said, "I will use a fake account to counter them." All of this leading investigators to this conclusion right here, that the Fort Bend County judge did solicit, encourage, direct aid, or attempt to aid Patel in his misrepresentation in a campaign communications.
So authorities got a search warrant to look at the judge's stuff, because it looks like he was okay in directing Patel to impersonate Trump supporters. Check it out.
Fort Bend County Judge KP George finds himself in the middle of one of the biggest political scandals in recent memory.
Now a search warrant accuses him of taking part in made-up racial social media posts with a candidate for county commissioner who is now being charged. Fox 26's Randy Wallace joining us in studio with the details. Randy.
Yeah, Anthony, now it was shocking when Fort Bend County Commissioner candidate 𝗧𝗟𝗘𝗏 got felony charges accusing him of making up racist rants on social media, pretending to be the victim. Now County Judge KP George is accused of not only knowing but signing off on the fake racist posts. According to the search warrant, County Judge KP George not only knew Patel had allegedly posted all the awful racist remarks, he signed off on them.
Oh, puppet master. Straight up, nothing but that. 𝗧𝗟𝗏𝗘𝗏 was drafting and creating the post to put up and then getting approval. Let me know if you approve. I'll share the post with my fake account. Unbelievable.
Unfortunately for the judge, after a grand jury saw the evidence, he was indicted.
Some more breaking news that we're following at 6 o'clock. Fort Bend County Judge KP George has been officially indicted. He's accused of using a fake social media account to attack himself and others during an election.
Judge George is right now in his second term, and this Facebook post, I want to show it to you, from exactly 2 years ago today, seems to be at the center of this criminal allegation that Judge KP George posted charged political content to make it look like he was being targeted by his political opponent at the time. That's the allegation. Specifically, this persona named Antonio Scallywag, that's what it was on Facebook, states that Team Nels had been busy removing George's campaign signs at the time. The court docs say George assumed that identity and made that post.
So KP George is now arrested and indicted. His former chief of staff, 𝗬𝗘𝗏 is arrested and indicted for impersonating Trump supporters on Facebook, which, again, is insane. Now, Andy Myers went on to crush Patel in the general election.
Now to one of the most talked about races, County Commissioner Precinct 3.
Republican incumbent Andy Myers is up against 𝗬𝗏, who has been indicted on 9 felony charges related to suspicious campaign activity. Let's get a quick look at the results here at this hour. Myers is leading the race with 59%. KPRC2's Corley Peel joining us now live from the Brahman Tasting and Tap Room in Richmond. Corley?
Hey, Daniela and Keith, I'm actually joined here with Andy Myers right now, and you are leading this election right now. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. 59-41, 18 points. That's pretty much insurmountable. I'm not going to declare victory just yet, but I think it'd be nearly impossible for my opponent to catch me.
Now, Andy Myers won re-election easily with 60% of the vote, blowing out 𝗬𝗏. So after losing the election and facing 9 charges, that guy flipped. He was facing felony charges, and he came to a deal with the DA and pled guilty.
A former candidate for Fort Bend County Commissioner has pleaded guilty to creating fake social media accounts to gain sympathy during last November's election.
Patel had continued to run defiantly for county commissioner after being charged with multiple misdemeanors and felonies last year. So today, it was a bit surreal to see him own up to his crimes, whispering his pleas of guilty for creating fake online social media accounts and then attacking his political rivals as well as himself in an effort to garner sympathetic votes, according to investigators.
He has promised to cooperate in any future proceeding that may arise out of this conduct.
Cooperate in any future proceedings?
That is correct.
Does that include the cases that are being made against KP George, his former boss?
I believe it could.
And then the judge gets arrested a second time because while they were investigating the fake hate crime issue, they found that the judge was actually committing money laundering.
Let's jump right into that story. Fort Bend County Judge KP George was arrested and charged with money laundering between $30,000 and $150,000. Fox 26's Randy Wallace is outside of the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office, where earlier today he turned himself in.
Now, the Fort Bend County DA's office did issue a statement that says the Fort Bend County District Attorney's Office filed a misdemeanor charge last year pending in County Court of Law number 5. This came after an investigation into an associate of Mr. George was expanded to implicate George himself. The District Attorney's Office has continuously stated the investigation is ongoing, and that investigation has now led to 2 third-degree felony indictments for money laundering. These charges have nothing to do, the statement says, to the pending misdemeanor charges. So again, this appears to be a whole other criminal investigation, and this time the county judge is facing felony charges that, if convicted, he could spend several years in prison.
So with that, the doors are closing in on Judge KP George. But he said, no. He's still going to fight. And the way he's going to start his fight is by leaving the Democratic Party and becoming a Republican. Here's the announcement.
The all-important announcement that I am officially joining a Republican Party. For the past few years has become very clear to me and also many others that Democratic Party has become one of corrupt and radical political ideology and positions that simply do not reflect the values of Fort Bend County families and small businesses, also hardworking residents of Fort Bend County. I have always believed in foundational American principles of faith, family, and freedom. And I realized that the Republican Party that champions these values.
So KP George ran for a 3rd term, this time not as a Democrat, but as a Republican, and this is what happened.
And county judge is another one we're watching closely, considering Judge KP George, the incumbent, switched from Democrat to Republican after his criminal charges related to his previous re-election campaigns. Judge George, in fact, finished in last with less than 10% of the vote. Daniel Wong will represent the Republican Party come November in that race.
So KP George, his first election, money laundering. Second election, he's faking hate crimes against himself. And now he switched from Democrat to Republican and is trying to get reelected. But the voters have had enough and he is kicked to the curb. But now he still has to go through a trial for money laundering. Now there are high stakes here because if KP George is convicted of a felony, not only is he going to jail, but he loses his judgeship.
KHOU 11 starts right now with a breaking news alert.
And the breaking news at 4, the top political figure in Fort Bend County. We're talking about County Judge KP George, convicted of money laundering.
That verdict came down in the last 2 hours.
But his removal from office following his conviction is going to be a little complicated.
Jason.
What happens next is there's a sentencing hearing on June 16th. The law says you're removed from office upon conviction, but technically trial is not over until we finish sentencing. A judgment is not entered until that time. So Mr. George can't even appeal his conviction until that time. So when that gets finalized on the 16th, there will be language in the judgment that removes him from office. If he appeals, that will supersede the removal order, at which time we will request the judge to enter an order of suspension, suspending him from office because it's in the public interest.
On page 10 of the verdict form, verdict of the jury.
Which means, let's say if he didn't, he could literally still be a judge, you know what I'm saying, until his term is up, if he appeals the conviction. So I'm just saying, I just wanted to add that in there.
Guilty. We, the jury, find the defendant, 𝗂𝗚𝗡 guilty of money laundering, third-degree felony, is charged in the indictment. In cause number 25 DCR 110889A, page 8 of the charge, verdict of guilty. We, the jury, find the defendant, 𝗂𝗚𝗡 guilty of money laundering and third-degree felony offense as charged in the indictment, signed by George C. Gleason, foreperson of the jury, on today, March 20th, 2026.
Now, George was silent when the verdict was read. He did not have...
All right, so that's the saga of KP George and 𝗪𝒨 Patel. Now, just to put a nice tiny bow on everything, George still has a trial coming up for the social media post thing, but prosecutors say that they may not go through with that because they're misdemeanor charges and these 2 felony convictions are enough for them. Now, if that trial for those criminal charges don't go forward, then that essentially lets 𝗪𝒨 Patel off the hook because he won't have to testify against his former boss. But he still has pled guilty to those lesser charges, remember from before.
Former candidate for Fort Bend County Commissioner has pleaded guilty to creating fake social media accounts to gain sympathy during last November's election.
So it seems like Patel doesn't have anything to worry about, but KP George is facing a decade in prison, and I think all told, he's going to have a problem. And I think he's lucky that the DA's office isn't going after the misdemeanors because I think they got him stone cold on that. The messages alone prove that he had some involvement with Patel.
𝗪𝗏 Patel was drafting and creating the post to put up and then getting approval. Let me know if you approve. I'll share the post with my fake account. Unbelievable.
Yeah, so you got that. I think KP George squandered a wonderful opportunity to show people what the American dream really is. You can immigrate to this country, work hard, and make a real difference. But it seems like the only real difference he wanted to make was either in his own pockets or make it seem that the country that gave him these opportunities was a racist cesspool. But it actually shows you the truth in this country. Racism was so hard to find, they had to manufacture it themselves. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to all great YouTube stuff. My name is 𝗓𝗏 the Lawyer. I'm out.
They manufactured it. But my whole thing is, you're not from here. And it says a lot about where you came from because you come with you. You know what I'm saying? You go where you go. So what were you involved in your home country that you thought you could come here and get away with it here? That, like I said, that's the bigger question to me. And, you know, it goes back to, there's been a lot of people that have really said, you know, we should not allow people from foreign countries, if you're naturalized, you don't get to get involved in our politics. Period. Like, you can't run for office, dog catcher. No. Like, you don't get to run for office. Not naturalized citizens, born citizens, yes, not naturalized. Because people are over it. I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you. But it also goes to the fact of, okay, now when you see somebody saying, well, this person is coming after me and this is racist, is it really? Did you set that up? Is it real? So now, because it's not even a situation of being crying wolf, you just flat out lied and created this ecosystem. Because yes, are there people out there making disparaging comments that are very prejudicial and discriminatory? Absolutely. But again, racism is something that can be proven, and it's not with words. And that's, I think people just need to look up the definition of racism. Now, when people were being attacked with hoses, right, in the 60s, during the civil rights movement, I should say this. Yeah, I would say it was the voting civil rights, right? Because in 1866, they already had the civil rights law for the Emancipation Proclamation. So during the voting civil rights, close to a century later, people were being hosed down. People were being beaten with billy clubs by the police. By the way, that is racism, because you were doing it to one specific group. You targeted one specific group and you physically harmed them. Physically, it's a physical act. It's not an act with words, it's a physical act. Is that happening to any other groups today? Bueller? Now, a lot of people say, well, that's happening with ICE. No, it's not. ICE is actually picking up people that have